I am going to record this. Okay. So, as I said, my apologies. I don't know. They think there's a bad Wi-Fi connection somewhere, so it's not working. Such is life. They'll get over it. I want to talk today about our first reading. The first reading comes from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. And this is actually probably the reading that is most often selected for weddings. It's the very famous 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient, love is kind, it does not put on airs, etc., etc. I will show you a still more excellent way, Paul says. And so he talks about love. Now, in Providence, maybe it's actually good that the 7th and 8th graders are not here and they're not hearing this homily. That's actually, as I was reflecting on this and preparing it in my holy hour this morning, I was really trying to discern, do I want the 7th and 8th graders to hear this? And I think the Lord just decided for me, so that's good. Obviously, you guys are in a very different place than the 7th and 8th graders, okay? There's something that changes when you enter high school. And I want to talk about that because I talk a lot about vocations, and particularly discerning a vocation to the priesthood and the religious life. I think that's important. But the reality is that most of you will one day be called to marriage. Most of you will find someone someday and get married. But unfortunately, you're growing up in an age that does not know how to have a healthy relationship. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I'm going to guess that many of you probably come from divorced homes, that your parents are divorced, that's been your example of a male-female dating relationship. You, and I say we too, but me because I'm part of this too, but all of us have been formed in an era where relationships, our understanding of it comes more from Hollywood than it does from Jesus, right? I mean, like, what's Hollywood tell you about relationships? You meet somebody, you hook up, you maybe know their name, maybe you don't, and you sleep together and then you go your separate ways, right? Tinder, swipe left, swipe right. That's what we are told a healthy relationship is like, and that's just completely the opposite of what Jesus Christ tells us. And so what I want to share with you guys today, and I talked about this a little bit last year, but this is sort of a follow-up from that homily that I gave last year. But I want to share with you guys today, what does a healthy dating relationship look like for teenagers who are hopefully one day preparing for marriage, as most of you, as I've said, will be called to. The first thing, let's just talk about very quickly, what is it not? What is an unhealthy relationship? I already talked a little bit about Hollywood and Tinder and divorce and whatever else, but fundamentally, an unhealthy relationship is the opposite of love. So what is the opposite of love? We might be tempted to say hate. Okay, our first inclination might be to say hatred. That is actually not the right answer. St. John Paul II said that the opposite of love is use. When we use another person, that is the opposite of what Jesus tells us love is. So what does Jesus say love is? Love is to lay down your life for another. Jesus says to us, there is no greater act of love than to lay down your life for a friend. That's what Jesus says. Those are his words. So John Paul II takes that and flips it around. He says, okay, the opposite of love is to use someone, in a particular way to use someone for our own desires, for our own selfish ends, whatever that may be. And so if you're in a relationship like that, that's a pretty big red flag, okay? That's a pretty big check mark on the dump him, dump her list. If you're dating somebody, if you're going out with somebody that is using you for their own ends. If you're doing that to somebody else, stop. Okay, so what does this look like? Right? What does it look like? First of all, a healthy dating relationship is ordered towards marriage. Ordered towards marriage. What does that mean? Does that mean that the person you are going out with, the person you're dating right now, that you're going to wind up getting married to them? No, not necessarily. But if you're not at least open to the possibility that God might be calling the two of you to get married one day, you should stop that relationship. because you're just wasting each other's time. If you know with 100% certainty, I will never marry the person that I'm going out with right now, then back up one step. What is that relationship? It's not a relationship of love, it's a relationship of use. Using another person. So, get out of that, right? So, ordered towards marriage. Second of all, a healthy relationship is always centered around Jesus Christ. One of the best measuring sticks of finding someone to marry is ask this question: does this person love God more than he or she loves me? And if the answer is yes, that is a very good person to marry, because that person will understand properly his or her responsibility to help you become a saint. What's the mission of marriage? To get one another to heaven. That's the mission of marriage. Husbands help get their wives get to heaven. Wives help their husbands get to heaven. So if you're not interested in having a relationship with someone who is more in love with God than they are in love with you, that's a problem. So first of all, ordered towards marriage. Second of all, centered on Jesus. Third of all, a relationship that is mature and, shall we say, in the realm of adulthood. So, raise your hand if you're over 14. Okay, raise your hand if you are not yet 14. We got any 13-year-olds in here? Everybody's 14? Okay. Historically, you are all adults. In history, you are all adults. Okay? In most cultures in history, you would all be married with children of your own by now. Now, I'm not advocating for that. I'm not suggesting we do that. But the Blessed Virgin Mary was probably, as best we can tell, about 14 years old when the angel Gabriel came to her and said, "Hey, I got a proposition for you. Do you want to be the mother of God?" In most societies in human history, 14, 15 years old was when you would be considered an adult, be married, and be expected to contribute to adult society. And so again, I'm not advocating that we go back to that, okay? I think it's healthy the way that we do things now. But regardless, the point is this: you don't get married to a boy or a girl. You get married to a man or to a woman. So, ask yourself this question: is the person you're dating, do they behave in an adult manner? So, do they say and do childish things? Does this person behave in a childish way around me? What's a good indicator of this? Ladies, I'm going to talk to you for 1 second. So girls, listen to this for 1 second. If the guy you're dating is not willing to go to your father and to shake his hand and to look him in the eye and to tell him what he's planning to do with you that day and that night and whenever it may be, dump him. Gentlemen, let me talk to you for a second. Be a man. Okay, be a man, gentlemen. And that means go to her father. Say it again. Go to her father, look him in the eye, shake his hand, be an adult. I don't say any of this, by the way, just because I know sometimes I can kind of get up and think like, oh man, it sounds like I'm yelling at you. I'm not yelling at you, okay? I'm saying all of this because of what that reading talked about, because I love you. And because I want you to enter into healthy relationships and to be, like, can I just be real for a second with you? I feel so bad for you guys. Like I do. I feel so bad for you. Because again, you have been formed in an era that thinks that if you're not having sex by the second date, then something is wrong. That, like the questions that you ask in relationships are like, is the second date or the first date or the third date or whatever, is that too soon to sleep together? Guys, these are the wrong questions. And we have robbed you as a society of your childhood by instilling in you the idea that every healthy relationship has to be about sex. Actually, it's quite the opposite. It is quite the opposite. If you want to have a healthy relationship with somebody, if it's based on sex, that is a prime indicator that it's exceedingly unhealthy. So, I say this not to condemn, not to criticize, not out of anything else, but out of great love for you. Please know that, out of great love for you. So, let's recap real quick. Is this relationship an adult relationship? Is the person you're dating an adult? Second of all, is it centered on Jesus? Is it centered on Jesus? Third of all, is it a relationship of use? Or is it a relationship of love, of self-sacrifice? I hope, excuse me, I was not choking up, I just had to cough. I hope someday that those of you who are called to marriage find your spouse and enter into a beautiful, healthy relationship. The way you learn how to do that is right now, guided by your parents, directed by them, so that they can help you grow in these virtues. One last point. How do you break up? Because, again, you're probably not going to marry the person you are going out with right now. And notice, by the way, I did not say talking to. Okay, I did not say talking to. Let's just be honest. Talking to someone means I just don't have the cojones to actually ask you out. Right? Right. How do you break up? Again, you be an adult. You say, I care about you, but I just don't think that God is inviting me, is calling us to marriage. If you have a healthy relationship centered on Jesus, that just kind of falls into place. Last point. Gentlemen, if you ever break up with a girl via text message, via Snapchat, via Instagram, your mother should come beat you with a spoon. Ladies, that goes for you too. Okay? God wants something great for you. He wants something great for you. If we follow His plan for dating, for sex, marriage, I should actually put those in the right order, dating, marriage, sex, then the gift is glorious. If we get those out of order, massive chaos. Be formed in Christian courtship now, so that you are prepared to enter into marriage. Seniors, perhaps a year or two from now, potentially, who knows? Freshmen, 5 or 6 years from now. But be formed in the way of the Lord, so that when God calls you to that, you are ready to enter in.